Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Teaching English webinar for teacher educators, in which Cristiana Osan will share how teacher educators can help teachers to look after themselves. My name is Shirin Soyuz, and I'll be your moderator today. Thank you all so much for joining our live event. And before we start our session, I'd like to share a number of quick housekeeping reminders with you. So while waiting, please share with us in the Q&A where you are from. If you work in pre-service teacher education, type pre-service. If you work in in-service, type in-service in the Q&A. So this session is being recorded, and the recording will be available on our Teaching English website in the next couple of days. And the link to the certificate will be provided in the thank you email that you'll receive in the next 2 days. And finally, you'll have a chance to ask questions to Cristiana during our session. Please use the Q&A to ask our presenter your questions. We'll be using the chat for announcements. So let me introduce you to our guest today. Cristiana Osan is a highly experienced teacher educator in the area of supporting teacher well-being, and she'll tell us more about how she started this foundation of this helping teachers with their well-being. And in this session, she'll take us a practical look at connecting with others, learning new skills, and how contributing to the development of others can actually make a real difference to our own well-being, and as well as the well-being of our teachers that we work with. So we look forward to learning more about your experience and insights. Cristiana, welcome again.
Thank you so much, Irene. Hello, everybody. It's so nice to see so many of you here. Thank you very much for joining. I'm particularly happy to welcome you to this webinar on a topic that I did not only research, but I have lived. And if you allow me, I will start by sharing something personal. And I just want to tell you that I will also ask you to contribute with some ideas and some personal experiences in the Q&A throughout the webinar. Thank you for the little hearts. I really appreciate them. They really matter. So I started my career as a teacher, and I taught for 11 years. And then I became a teacher educator with the British Council. In 2010, I also trained as an e-moderator, and I started working mostly online. Since then, I have been working with dozens of thousands of teachers around the world, and I've loved every minute. Furthermore, I have started developing also into other areas of education. I have written materials, I have developed courses. I'm also an examiner for a couple of international certificates, and I love it. And my passion for my work became a bit of a problem. Maybe some of you can relate to this kind of story, loving our job too much and ending up being very, very tired. For the last few years, I had like 5 or 6 months every year when I would work for 12 to 14 hours every day. And when I say every day, I mean the weekends as well. Sleeping around 4 hours per night, having very little time for myself or for my family, whom I love dearly. So a couple of years ago, I started to work on holistic education, and I started digging into well-being for teachers, well-being for teacher educators. And what I'm going to share with you is not just theory, it's something that I have tried and tested. I'm going to show you several ideas that you can try, but then I will also tell you what has worked for me best. It doesn't mean that they will necessarily, the same things will work for you. That's why I'm going to provide a variety of strategies. But let me show you what exactly we are going to do today. So, as Shirin announced, we are going to focus on supporting teacher well-being. I want to say that this is actually applicable in all areas of education. So anybody who works with learners, with educators, I think will find something valuable in the webinar. And our, let's say, mantra will be connecting, learning, and contributing, and you will see towards the end why. But first of all, let me tell you what exactly we are going to do. We will try to define well-being for teachers. And by doing that, we will list the elements that contribute to well-being. We will also identify personal strategies to support teachers' well-being, and towards the end, reflect on the role teacher educators play in teachers' well-being. So it's going to be something that you can apply for yourselves, but also something you can pass on to the teachers you work with. And we will start with a little warm-up. I would like you to be very, very honest and to look at your work in this academic year so far. And I would like you to write in the Q&A 3 adjectives to describe how your academic year has been so far. How would you describe it? What adjectives would you use? And you don't have to necessarily think of adjectives that belong to the same type of adjectives, not all of them negative, not all of them positive. Just be honest with yourselves and think about what words would describe your experience so far best. So please use the Q&A. As Andrea explained, we use the chat for announcements. A roller coaster ride. Okay, Jose, that sounds intense. Tense. Oh yeah, waiting and fruitful. Okay, Punam, maybe waiting for an event. I do have big plans for this one. Busy, exciting, and challenging. Thank you, Anna. Exhausting and challenging. I like how we kind of put together words that are connected, very positive and very challenging ones. Stressing, motivating, and intense. I like the intensity of your feelings, and I can completely relate to that. Invigorated, challenging, enriching. Nice. Okay, beautiful. All right. Tiring, excited, and demotivated sometimes. I think it's normal. We can't be always upbeat. We can't always be very excited about the job. There are ups and downs, like everything in life, right? Intense, tiring, and satisfying. Wonderful. Constantly changing and demanding. Okay, so as I said, hard to make the machine run, feeling not motivated, but I'm so sorry, Safinaz, that that is the case. It can happen. And then probably this is when we feel the need to change something. Constructive, inspiring, and overwhelmed. As I was saying, very interesting to see how quite often we feel great satisfaction. We feel accomplished professionally, but at the same time, we can feel demotivated, tired, probably very close to a burnout. And it's normal. Everything we are feeling is absolutely justified in our own context. So by no way would I like you to feel, I don't know, guilty for feeling demotivated or for feeling tired. It's normal. It's absolutely normal. And we should be aware of the fact that our feelings are contradictory sometimes. They are very intense and they are sending a message. So hopefully today, while we are going through this webinar, you will try to connect the dots between those adjectives and think, what is your experience trying to tell you? What are your feelings trying to say and to do in terms of redirecting you towards a different path, maybe something that is adjacent to what you are doing now. But first of all, I would like to explain that we are not alone. I collected a few facts and figures that will show you that, yes, many teachers, many people who work in education feel it is a very rewarding career. In most of the situations, we are actually talking about a calling, not a profession. However, we also share the other part, the intensity of those negative feelings or the fatigue and the demotivation. It's a phenomenon that is rising very, very quickly. For instance, in the last couple of years, we have the highest number of teachers quitting the profession. 8.7 in the UK, 9% in the USA, and globally 9.06. The attrition rate is kind of scary, and there is a huge need for teachers to enter the systems, the educational systems around the world. I also chose this number because I think it tells us how rapidly this phenomenon is growing. In 2012, so a decade ago, 32% of the newly qualified teachers would quit in the first 5 years of teaching. I know it's a high number, but look at what is happening this year. The percentage is up to 44%. So more than 10% in 10 years. Young teachers, newly qualified teachers would leave the profession because they just feel overwhelmed for different reasons. And since this is the situation, and we establish it's something that we feel, it's something that the numbers show us, we should also understand that talking about teacher well-being is not a fad, it's not just something that is trending. It's actually a requirement for effective teaching. And I really liked this little quote from this publication from the British Council. And I think Andrea and Shirin will help me with the link in the chat. Teaching is an emotional and embodied social practice. It's not just cognition. It's not just passing on knowledge. It's actually a lot more than that. And we will look into what goes into that a lot more than that. So I think we can agree we are having a problem, but let's try to identify the cause of that problem. I'm going to show you a poll and you will be able to vote. The question is, you should be able to see it now. So the question is, in your experience, which is the main factor determining teachers to leave the profession? You should be able to select several choices, not just one. But please select maybe like top 2 or 3 issues, factors that might determine teachers to leave the profession. And while you are voting, I'm just going to quickly present them. Paperwork and bureaucracy, learners' behavior, stress and burnout, payment, educational policy in the country where we are, or around the world maybe, loneliness, and work culture, how the profession is seen inside the community, in the school, and so on. And we have about a third of the participants who have voted already, so please make sure that you also cast your vote. Based on your experience, you know, what do you think makes the teachers in your area, the teachers you work with, the teachers you know, you personally, think about leaving the profession? I met a friend this weekend, and she reminded me that a year ago we met on the street, and she was telling me, I'm just one step away from resigning. Meanwhile, she decided to stay inside the school that she is in now, and she got over that situation that she was in. But it's not easy, and she needed a lot of support. She found her own resources, she looked for solutions, but it wasn't easy. Okay, so we have more than half of the participants. I'll give you just a few more seconds. I think we can already see the main factors coming through. So if you haven't voted yet, please do it now because I'm going to end the poll. All right. So I'm going to, a few more votes coming in. Good, thank you. I'm going to end the poll and show you the results. Here we are. So thank you very much for voting and for expressing your opinion. Practically, most of you, 63% of those who are here, or of those who voted, said that stress and burnout is the main reason. The next factors would be payment. And although we know that teaching is not very well paid around the globe, we still understand that, you know, we're not joining the profession for the payment, but still we should be able to make a decent living since we have worked so much on becoming a teacher. paperwork and bureaucracy. And unfortunately, this is a worldwide phenomenon. Also work culture. And interestingly, quite a lot of people outside education say that the learner's behavior pushes the teachers outside the profession, which is not true. And you see only 30% of you said that this is a factor. Thank you very much for voting. And I'm going to show you very quickly the options. And indeed, you are right. Stress and burnout is the main cause for leaving. There are all sorts of research findings coming from research, index of well-being in different countries. It's very recent, actually. They started doing this index of well-being only in a few countries and only recently, and they all indicate the same thing. Stress and burnout. It's obviously somehow something you can connect with because you voted the same, but maybe those of you who chose other reasons, you can tell us how your context managed to help teachers not feel that stress and burnout. And before we go into strategies, I have one more question for you because I see that you are so passionate about teaching. I would like to ask you, what do you think is the connection between an airplane and a classroom? And again, I invite you to express your ideas, your connections that you can establish between the two environments in the Q&A. And thank you very much for all the comments coming in the Q&A. So, that's so nice. Both the classroom and the plane help us develop our imagination and fly high. That's such a wonderful and poetic answer, Deepak. Thank you very much. I love it. I haven't even thought about that. And, it's like obvious. If you're in, you're in. All aboard. Apparently, in India, there are also people who want to get out. So although we say once a teacher, always a teacher, there are still people who want to leave the profession because it's becoming too much. Yes, thank you very much, Leslie. That's it. Interesting, Safinaz. In both sides, we do trust the leader and both take us to another world of knowledge. Excellent. So the teacher and the pilot will help us reach new areas of life, of knowledge, or something like that. But Leslie was right. I was thinking that actually, when you get on the plane and they give you the safety instructions, they do tell you, in case of emergency, oxygen masks will drop off. Please ensure that you place the oxygen mask on you first and then on your children or help those around you. Why is that important? Why do you think it is important to do that? To first make sure that you have the oxygen mask on and then you help others. I'm really curious to see. Hi, Janet. Very nice suggestion from Janet as well. We have to plan while flying. There are so many connections, aren't there? And I really like the fact that you are suggesting this, the connection between the roles, like the teacher and the pilot, the destination, the road, why not? It's so nice, isn't it? The fact that the classroom, that seems to be a static environment, can take us so far away. So actually, if we are not feeling good enough, we cannot help the others. Just like with the oxygen mask. If we don't have the oxygen mask on and we pass out, we cannot help the people around us or our children, our family. It's the same in the classroom. You cannot have a good environment in the classroom. You cannot create a space in which the learners feel safe, confident, comfortable if we do not feel safe, comfortable, and ready to teach. So the connection would be the idea that we have to take care of ourselves in order to be able to do our job and to be happy. It's not just doing this profession like anything else in life. It's not just about surviving, right? We should enjoy what we do. We are blessed to be in this profession, but how can we find some support, or how can we help ourselves? What is our oxygen mask? How can we put it on to make sure that we can help the learners? This is what we are going to do next. We are going to try to identify what works for us. What is the oxygen for us? First of all, I have to explain that there are several models that are out there. I will mention another one. You will find one, by the way, in the link that Andrea shared with you. Thank you so much for that, Andrea, in that publication for British Council Sticky Objects. I'm going to refer to one that I have tried and it works for me. So hopefully you can see that this is something you can relate to as well. But when it comes to well-being, if you look for a definition, it's very, very difficult to find one definition to cover all the aspects. So I would like to ask you, because you are so poetic, I'm so impressed with the creativity coming from your contributions. What is well-being for you? If you want to be creative, if you want to be academic, you can give any type of answer you want. But I would like you to tell me, how would you define well-being? What is well-being for you personally or in your context? Okay, Fatima already identified a possible oxygen mask, planning emotional stability, managing stress during teaching. That's nice. It's true, Edna. It's true that sometimes teachers also end up in the profession without necessarily making an informed choice or without feeling that calling. Um, I guess it's like any other profession, isn't it? Focusing on the subject, health, physically and mentally. Okay, Kenny. Feeling good with yourself, says Joanna. And it's very nice to see you here, Joanna. And being content with what you do or what you are doing right now. Great. I see that people already start addressing different areas like physical condition, mental condition. Okay, physical, mental, emotional, and social aspects. Ah, Rose, what a nice equation you set up there. Equality. Well-being is serenity, because serenity would cover quite a lot of things. Job satisfaction, peace of mind. Holistic care, says Laurel. Great. Indeed, there is no definition to cover all the aspects because it's a very personal perception of well-being. What might feel like a perfect condition, perfect work condition for me might not be working for you. You might feel very stressed. You might not enjoy it. You might not have the same kind of feeling. So while we do not have a clear definition, we can say that all the definitions that have been attempted by specialists realize that there are several dimensions, not just one. And you actually mentioned all of them in your posts, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual elements. So it's more than just filling the minds of our learners with knowledge. It's more than testing them or preparing them for exams and tests. It's a lot more than that, and it's both for them and for us, right? So we are going to look at a model that kind of addresses in a systematic way all these aspects, and we will see how we can apply it. I don't know if you have ever heard about Martin Seligman. He's the founder of positive psychology. In the 90s, actually, he became the president of the American Psychology Association in the USA. And in his opening speech, he mentioned the fact that psychologists should stop looking only at the problems of the patients and try to focus more and research more what is good in life and try to help people amplify those things, because otherwise, if we all only look for problems, we will find only problems. And that idea that he uttered back in the 90s, he actually developed later on. He, as I said, became the founder of positive psychology. And in 2011, he launched this model, which is called the PERMA model. I will show you what each letter stands for. I don't know if you have heard of it or if you have tried it. I'm going to invite you again to use the chat to let us know if this is something you are familiar with or if this is something new. So Martin Seligman says that we have this PERMA model and each letter stands for something. P stands for positive emotions. And when we say positive emotions, we don't mean just happiness, because sometimes people have wrong understanding of well-being. It's about being happy. You cannot be happy all the time, but cultivating a range of emotions like joy, happiness, hope, interest, pride, could be, oh, I put interest twice, so it must be interesting, I guess. Just being passionate about something. My son is a teenager now, and he keeps saying, I don't understand how people can live without a passion, at least something that they should be not just like, but be passionate about. So I really like that kind of idea coming from a teenager. So yes, a range of positive emotions, okay? If we have these positive emotions, if you know how to cultivate them, we already have one pillar in this model working for us. Another pillar is E, engagement. Probably many of you know about Csikszentmihalyi's concept of flow, when we have a perfect balance between challenge and skill, when whatever we do is interesting enough, challenging enough for us to be completely absorbed, and we love it. Think about when you read a really good book and you are transported into another dimension. This is that state of flow. Or when you teach and you feel that everything is going so well and you just enjoy it, you get lost in the moment. That's the engagement. The R stands for relationships. We do not work with figures and numbers. We don't sit down crunching numbers all day long. We work with people. Inevitably, we connect with friends, with our fellow teachers, with people outside the profession, with the community. So it's all about connections and support networks. Initially, the M, and even now, if you look it up, most resources will tell you that M stands for meaning. But a few months ago, I listened to an interview with Martin Seligman, and he was saying that he realized that in this world, people were a bit reluctant towards meaning, because many people understand meaning as being transcendental, finding something bigger than yourself. And he was saying, maybe in this modern world, we should say mattering. Why do I matter? How does what I do matter in this world? What does my work change in this world? How do I matter as a teacher, as a person, as an educator? How do I matter? So meaning or matter. And A is achievement, having a sense of mastery and competence. And you might realize that we're not talking only about qualifications and diplomas. It's an inner sense of being in control of our evolution, of our growth, feeling that we continue learning, right? So what we are going to do now is to take each one of these pillars and look at them in more detail, how we can strengthen them. But first, before we do that, if you look at these 5 pillars, which pillar do you think is your strongest one? And which one is the one that needs more attention at this point in your career? So if you could do a quick evaluation, if you look at these 5 elements, these 5 pillars supporting you, which one feels the strongest and you can maybe lean harder on it, and which one feels the weakest? And I'm going to open my Q&A to see what you are saying. If you want to share, these are very personal things. And of course, you might say, I'm not sure I want to share that. That's fine. That's fine. That's perfectly all right. Positive emotions is the strongest, Surendra. I'm sure, Shirin, that you put down the question that was up there. I think that's interesting. Engagement, the strongest, positive emotions, the weakest. Maybe, Punam, it's because of what we were saying earlier. Maybe people are feeling demotivated, and then it's when we feel tired, we don't have the energy to have positive emotions, right? Um, could you also maybe just write, strongest and weakest so that I know which one matter the weakest? Laurel, you feel that you need to identify how matter can be made stronger, right? Strongest achievement and engagement, and weakest meaning and positive emotions. Thank you very much. Malika, relationships make us stronger. Yes, I completely agree. I always say that I wouldn't be here doing what I do and loving so much what I do without the people that have accompanied me and have supported me throughout my career. The top one, relationships for Henda, and the weakest achievement and meaning the strongest for Nesma, and the weakest engagement. Okay. Of course, I'm just saying, Safinaz, I'm not saying that they matter more or less. I'm just saying which one you feel you have worked on, maybe intuitively, and you feel supports you more, and which one needs you to support in order to build it, to make it stronger. So thank you very much for all those ideas. As I said at the very beginning, I'm going to show you some strategies. But I have some good news and some bad news. So the good news is that all these strategies, all these pillars can be made stronger, and they can be, we can work on them. They can be improved. The bad news is that we can do that only by being consistent. Doing something today after this webinar, maybe you find some inspiration and you try something for a day or two and then you forget about it, doesn't work. So maybe together we will find a way of taking down some notes. Maybe you have I always have a notebook next to me. Maybe you have a notebook and you write down the most appealing strategies for you, and you also make a plan how to implement them. And please do try them for a while, and then if they don't work for you, try something else, but be consistent. So we can work on them, but we have to be consistent. Okay, so let's take the first one, positive emotions. First of all, what is the purpose? Why should we work on positive emotions? Somebody said it in the chat, that positive emotions can help us handle stress and increase our resilience. Don't we need that? Definitely, right? Not only as professionals, but also as people. So that would be the purpose. Now let's see how we can do that. Some of you actually mentioned the positive emotions as being the ones that need to be strengthened, that need to be worked on. So I will share some strategies, and I'll also tell you how they have worked for me. But once again, if they have worked for me, it doesn't mean that they will necessarily work for you, or the ones that didn't necessarily work very well for me wouldn't work for you. One strategy that I know you've heard of, because it's such a popular strategy for therapists, right? Lots of psychologists and therapists recommend having a gratitude journal. Now, we will take some of these strategies and think how we can use them in our context as educators. Of course, you can have an individual gratitude journal. I was thinking now about Brene Brown, the famous psychologist from the United States. She had a friend of hers on her podcast, and this lady was saying that her house was completely destroyed during a hurricane. And that evening, while she was sleeping on the floor of some friend's house, before she went to sleep, she took out her gratitude journal that she had with her and she wrote something down. And she went on to explain exactly what I told you before, that if you find yourself in a difficult spot, it's very difficult to build a safety net there on the spot, right? Because you're already tired, you're already frightened, you have lost so much, you're too tired, you don't have the energy. But if you consistently have a routine and if you have a gratitude journal and you write in it every single day, it doesn't have to be something long, just a couple of words, maybe 3 things you are grateful for. And it can be anything from the smile of a learner in the class, from the way the sun felt on your face while you were walking to school. It can be anything. Then you build in the strength and the resilience, and when you need it, it's going to be there for you. So even if you're in a good place, you might like gratitude journals. But if you want to make it more like a community thing, if you want some accountability bodies, you can start something like this with your teachers, with the teachers in the teachers lounge, with your friends and colleagues at school, maybe with the help of your school management, or why not, since you are teacher educators, in training sessions, you can establish a moment when everybody takes a few minutes to write down a few things they are grateful for, and they can share with the others or not. The same with the learners. I really love the fact that my son's teacher is doing that this year with them. Twice a week, I think. They have at special pages in their notebooks where they just keep adding things they are grateful for. It can be something that, again, they want to share with the classmates or not. But especially with teenagers, I think that is very, very important. They focus so much on all the turmoil, all the emotional turmoil they have inside. They might forget to count their blessings. And I think that is a very nice idea. Something we can do, besides with teachers of English, most of us here, just by working with them on vocabulary to be able to identify feelings. It's a great linguistic aim, but we also work on life skills. We help them identify feelings. When we write a gratitude journal, we often write about feelings, how we felt that day, what made us happy, what made us frustrated, and how we got over that frustration. So I'm going back to Brené Brown. I remember she was saying that although we have such a huge array of feelings, we are wired to recognize only 3. It's strange, isn't it? It's only, we immediately recognize in ourselves and in others only happiness, anger, and sadness. These are the 3 feelings we identify, but we don't feel only those, right? We could feel jealousy, we could feel envy. And how are they different? We can teach that to our learners. And we as language teachers, if we teach the right vocabulary, we give power to the learners. When we name something, we have power over it. If we identify the correct feeling, we can work with it. So using writing in whatever form, maybe not a gratitude journal. By the way, there are alternatives. If you're like, I feel it's kind of contrived to always write about the things I'm grateful for, you can write a senses journal. I don't know, something in school that smelled good, something in school that smelled bad, something that you liked. Maybe one day you focus, you say, okay, today is Tuesday, I'm going to look for turquoise around me. And whatever you do in the class, on your way back home, you focus on finding little elements that are turquoise, and they keep you focused on something rather than maybe ruminating over something that's bad that happened, or thinking, oh, I should have changed that activity, that wasn't good. So give yourself another focus. This is something that I strongly recommend, but on the other hand, please be careful, because we have to be aware of the learner's age, of the learner's culture. Many of you teach in multicultural context, and humor is a very is culturally determined, right? So be careful with how we use it. But I do like to laugh a lot. I think you realize that just by looking at me. I think laughter heals, even in, I don't know, awkward situations. If I find a reason to laugh, I get over it. And especially if I have my friends with me, to laugh with me. I think my best friend is one of the participants here, and we always, in the morning, we call each other, and whatever our mood is, we always find a reason to laugh. At least one, maybe several, but at least one. And I think that is so important. So thank you for being there, Theo. And I do recommend finding friends to laugh with. Then do activities that you enjoy. I know it sounds silly because, like, of course, but I don't have time. I would love to go doing some salsa dancing classes, but I don't have time. Or I would like to try new activities, but who has the time to incorporate them or to research them? Whatever you enjoy, you must plan. You must find time for. And maybe I was just thinking about this now. Quite often we forget. Maybe when you were younger, you really, really enjoyed an activity and you forgot. So I'm going to invite you now on the spot to write some activities that you enjoy that bring you happiness or hope or interest, and you write them in the Q&A. And I'll tell you why this is important. On the one hand, you kind of give yourself a purpose. I'm going to do this more, and you might inspire each other. As I said, maybe you find a message in somebody else's idea and you're like, that's right, I used to enjoy that, and now I completely forgot. I was thinking the last time I did a similar activity in a face-to-face course, there was a lot of gardening around, and I don't like gardening. I haven't tried it actually. So I was thinking, is this a message? Should I give it a try? Well, maybe in spring I will join my father, who is a very skilled gardener, and he has lots of beautiful flowers, and I will give it a try. So, what are your activities? Kahoot games in class. Okay. Humor in class. All right. Play sports. Yes, whatever sports that may be, right? I'll tell you what, Kenny. I knew that I had to work out more, but I cannot force myself to do something I don't like. I don't like running. I really don't like weightlifting exercises, but I love dancing. I love yoga. So what I do is I do what I like dancing, and then I do like 15 minutes of strength, and then I go back to dancing. So find things that you like, because otherwise you will not be consistent. You will give up, right? So whatever you do try to come up. Dancing. Yes, Joanna, we should have a party. Skiing. Okay, you see, maybe now you can go back to skiing. Travel and photography. I yes, I love those too. Singing, dancing, and miming. That's fun. Travel without maybe some remote places, right? Without too many tourists. Sewing and embroidery. It must be so calming, Paula, right? You just you focus there, and it's so nice also to see something beautiful coming out of your hands. Swimming and relaxing by the pool, making a playlist and listening to it. Excellent. Oh, hi, Mariam. Okay, anecdotes in class. Yes. Exercises and writing. Good. Reading novels, Beatrix. Holidays, yes. Drawing. Oh, you lost me there, Lokendra. I'm terrible at drawing. You know that game activity, and you can choose how you try to make the others guess the meaning. Whenever I have to draw, nobody guesses. So I envy you for your talent if you like drawing and painting and stuff like that. Cooking and dancing, and maybe combined, right, Nesma? Great. So just go through the Q&A, please, and maybe something, pops up and you're like, oh, I forgot about this. I really enjoy it. Again, find time for yourself, make time for yourself to do those things. And if you notice, some of them are with your family, some of them are things you do on your own, some of them are things that you do in class. Just make a schedule, stick to it. do that more often in a very conscious way. Now, the thing that works for me the best here is to cultivate positive self-talk. If you work with teachers, I'm sure that you notice teachers are very, very harsh with themselves. I mean, whenever you go to observe a teacher, when they come out of the class and you say, "So, how was it?" And they go, "Oh, it was terrible. I had a beautiful plan and it didn't work." Teachers are very, very harsh. I think that we have high expectations from our learners, and um, we have even higher expectations from ourselves. So this is again something you have to do in a very conscious way and repeatedly. But first, what I recommend is paying attention to your little voice, the inner narrative, that voice that tells you what is happening around you. Is it neutral? Is it kind of negative? Is it positive and supportive? Then, yay, great. Continue doing that. If it's rather negative, if it's kind of critical, you can train yourself. What you can do, there are two strategies that work really well for me. One in particular, I'll tell you the other one first, which is to talk to yourself in the third person. Like, Cristiana, you can do it. I'm telling myself, right? Because it creates a little bit of a distance and it helps you be more objective and you express something positive. But the strategy that works best for me is to tell myself, to ask myself, would I say the things I say to myself to my best friend? Would I say them to my learners? Would I say them to another teacher? Then if I wouldn't say them to others, why would I say them to myself? Why am I being so self-critical? So this is something that we can work on ourselves. We can also suggest some strategies for teachers to work on this with the learners, just drawing their attention to their inner voice and identifying how critical it is. So give it a try. I was listening to Malala. You know Malala. She won a Nobel Prize, and she does so much for education, right? And she is never happy with how much she does. She would like to do more. And she was talking about being a child and being aware that she was becoming a target for the Talibans. And she was talking about, I knew that they were coming. I was thinking about the terror I would feel. And then when she reaches that point, all of a sudden she says, I told myself, Malala, you've got this. You have friends, you have support, you have your family who supports you. So you see, unconsciously, she was actually doing that. She was talking to herself in the third person, trying to encourage herself, to give herself a pep talk. So those were some strategies for positive emotions. We're moving on to engagement. Of course, we are working on engagement. Why? Because we want to get into that state of flow. It increases motivation. It makes us feel that we are doing a great job. So how can we do that? First of all, you should identify what you are very good at and use those things. In general, once again, going back to the previous point, we identify very quickly and very painfully the areas that we do not excel at, right? We are not so good at. So focus in the other direction. Focus on strengths. I'm sure that all of you have great talents, or you are very good at doing something in class, outside the classroom. Use those things more often and be aware of what you are doing and why you are doing it. My favorite strategy is to be creative in lesson planning. Even in the way I write the lesson planning, even in the way I write emails, I feel that if I repeat myself too often, I'm boring myself to death. I don't like that. I hate being repetitive. I hate I like routines, don't get me wrong. I think routines are a good framework, but inside that routine, we have to be creative. So try something that you haven't tried before. Maybe even something that you tried once and you gave it up. Give it another chance. Tinker a bit on that activity, change something that might work, and you might be surprised. And remember that in order for you to decide if an activity is for you and your learners, you should try it at least not 21 times, as they say in making habits. Actually, research says that at least 28 times. Of course, it doesn't mean that you do it in the same way with the same people over and over again. You change it, you adapt it, you use it with different learners, different age groups, at different moments, and then decide if it's for you or not. But do look for something new. Very often we are looking at our course books as if they are the holy books, and we don't do anything outside them. I know many of you thrive when you are creative, so please continue doing that more. And of course, how can we have that state of flow? We have to continue growing. You should continue your CPD. We should all continue learning. That's the purpose of our career, actually, right? Growth. I've never heard a teacher saying, "I've learned enough. That's good enough for me," because especially when we teach, we become aware of the things we don't know, of the things we discover new things to explore. And I would like to say something that I always say. I think it should be CPPD. It should be continuing professional and personal development. You cannot become a better teacher if you don't become a better person. So all this work, all this professional development is also about our inner selves, our personalities, our character. We have to continue working on ourselves because we're working with the values, the behaviors, the characters of the learners as well. And of course, mindfulness, it is again a trendy word, something that many people maybe have gotten tired of. But if you find your own way of being mindful, if, for instance, you set a goal for yourself to pay attention to the learner's reactions throughout the lessons you do in a week, and you maybe also take some notes, that would be a way of practicing mindfulness in the classroom. Or teaching your learners a breathing strategy that might help them deal with stress, with the stress and test anxiety or exam anxiety that is so common. Um, I lately I've been working on this with the teachers, and what we do in teacher training, face-to-face teacher training, is square breathing. If you are interested in that, please look it up. You will find that some videos that will help you. It's practically having the breathing in, the intake for, let's say, 4 seconds, hold on full lungs 4 seconds, breathe out 4 seconds, and hold on empty 4 seconds. If you feel comfortable with that, you can go to 6 seconds for each one, or 8 seconds, or 10 seconds. And it's so helpful. This you can find videos developed by universities that made those videos in order to help students before exams. In some countries, they play them in ER rooms, in emergency rooms in hospitals, because they help lower the blood pressure and the heartbeat. So give them a try. Teaching these things to your learners will help you because you'll have to do the strategy yourself in the classroom. We move on to relationships. I think many of you said that this is a strong point for you. I hope you are grateful for that, because it's such a blessing to have strong connections with the people you work with, besides the strong connections you have in your personal life. And also, when I say the people you work with, I mean the learners and the teachers. Having regular check-ins with colleagues is very important, I think. You know how when you ask people how they're feeling has become almost a greeting. You're like, "Hi, how are you?" And the person answers, "Fine, thank you." And you? So it's like a greeting. We don't even actually think how we are feeling in order to answer properly. So sometimes I like to say, "Hi, how are you?" And then when the person says, "Fine," I say, "No, really, how are you?" And I'm also vulnerable, and I share how I feel truly. I think this is very, very important, to be honest. And maybe, again, you can establish a practice with your colleagues to just have a regular check-in. Maybe you set up a coffee time before the weekend. Everybody or your close group of friends goes out for coffee, and you just reflect on how the week went. what really works well for me is peer support groups. That can take different forms. We have a project with teacher activity groups in Romania. And if any of the ladies from the Sighișoara tag are here, I really greet them. They are a model. We started this project more than 6 years ago, and now they run these teacher activity groups by themselves. They are self-sufficient. They continue seeing each other each month. They run the teacher activity groups. They set up a topic, they meet, they discuss the topic, but in practical terms, they share what they tried. They bring, pictures or products that the students made. They are an inspiration. And besides that, usually there is cake because it's a pretty large tag, and during a month, there is somebody's birthday usually. So there's cake, there's laughter, there's tea and coffee, and lots of fruitful discussions. There are also teachers' associations. I know that some of you, because I recognize some of the names, are very much involved in teachers' associations. They can be so wonderful. I can tell you that my closest friends, not in an organized way necessarily, but my closest friends are teachers. And I think that helps. If you talk to somebody who's not a teacher and you say, oh my God, I'm so tired, my sixth graders just killed me today, they will not understand. They will probably say, why are you complaining? You work, I don't know, 18, 20 hours per week. They don't see all the work behind those hours that we teach, right? Our job is so much more than that. So having teachers who are friends, who can support you, who can listen to you without judging you would be great. So do look for them, find them, build a circle of teachers who are there, or people who are in the same profession. Also, because we spend most of our time with the learners, we should really consciously work on building connections with the students. And that means, of course, learning about their interests and their personalities, being vulnerable, just telling them how we're feeling, being honest and just candid with them would be really, really important. Finding ways to introduce activities that show the learners, I can hear you, I can see you, I really value your input, even if your language is not great. It's not all about language and accuracy, right? But on the other hand, these days, we might feel that we are overwhelmed. I know that I turned off my WhatsApp notifications. I have lots of professional groups, but I turned it off just because I want to check those notifications when I work, when I'm in front of my laptop. And I also use WhatsApp only mostly on my laptop because then it means that I'm working. So find ways to disconnect. While you stay so much connected, also find ways to disconnect and spend some time with yourself. Build a relationship with yourself and enjoy your company. Meaning and mattering, how can we find meaning? How can we have a deeper sense of fulfillment and satisfaction? Well, I think it helps if regularly you check, you redefine your why. Why did I become a teacher? Why did I become an examiner? Why am I a teacher educator? Why do I keep going? Why haven't I given up? Just remind yourself. And what also works quite well for me is to write it down somewhere and put it in a place where I can see it. Usually it's like a note on my in my journal, or maybe you are a post-it person who just puts a poster on the fridge, or I don't know, on your laptop, and every time you start working, you're like, ah, yes, that's right. I also, because I work so much online, I also the profile pictures are pictures that were taken when I was with my family, because that reminds me I love my work, but I'm doing this work also for my family. It's a way to provide, it's a way to feel accomplished professionally, but also it connects me with my family. I know it's counterintuitive and you're probably already busy, but if you get involved in community projects, if you do some extra work, not because you want to get more money, but for projects that you select because they mean something to you. Maybe you have a support system for children in your area, in underprivileged families, or you help, you volunteer for you in your son's or daughter's school just to help with something because you have skills that are so useful to other schools, right? So volunteering, doing something else. In my son's school, the parents got organized and they started a foundation, and we do a lot of charity work to help other children in other schools, and to also give a sense of what that means, and to make our children realize how much they can contribute and help others, and teach with purpose. I think that's really, really important. Remind yourself, again, you're not teaching just English, you're teaching, you work with people, you're teaching people, not English. So what does that mean for you? How does that impact your vision of teaching? What is your purpose? What do you want to achieve? Think about, many of you have already been in the profession for quite a while now. And if you think about when you meet somebody who was your learner 20 years later, do they ever tell you, oh, I remember how well you taught conditional three. That was such a clarity moment for me. They never say that. What do they say? I remember how good I felt in your classes. I remember how we laughed together. I remember how you were there for me when I needed you, or when I don't know, I had a problem at home and you were there for me. This is what our learners remember, not the grammar and the vocabulary we taught them necessarily. I mean, they do remember, hopefully, but not in a conscious way. And finally, accomplishment and achievement. I think it's very useful if you set some goals. This is what a school counselor was sharing with me, how important it is for teachers to set up goals for themselves. And it could be short, mid, and long-term professional goals, but please revise them regularly. Make sure that these goals are your goals, not the goals that somebody else imposed on you, or the goals that you think others expect you to achieve. Um, and one little tip, something that I learned recently, when I gave up a project that I really cared about, sometimes consider, when is it the time to drop a project, or to drop a goal, to give it up. And what helps me is, if I ask myself, what does it cost me if I keep pursuing this goal? What do I gain if I drop it? How much will it cost you if you continue doing something, just because we always go, like, as a society, right? Never give up, continue until you succeed. But sometimes it's also good to say, I've had enough. This is not for me. Let's move on to something better. Let's find something else. Set those personal goals I was mentioning, CPPD, and celebrate successes. Once again, we focus so much on problems, and we forget that those successes could be, I don't know, a student who wanted to drop school comes to school, back to school, because they love your classes. You have results in all sorts of competitions, or they take international certificates. Whatever success you have, celebrate it. There is no small success. All successes are important. And for me, that it helps me to see myself through somebody else's eyes. So that's why I think it's very, very important to collect feedback from learners, peers, and superiors regularly. So we've had some strategies we can use on a personal level, or we can pass on. We can actually implement them in our teacher training or in our teaching. But what is our role as teacher educators? I think it's very, very important to start talking about this, and to create a culture of well-being in your workshops, in teacher training courses that you do. It's like a shift. We need to start talking more and more about this, and not only to talk, we start doing things. So if you talk about how important it is for teachers to create a safe environment for learning, please create a safe environment for the teachers you work with. Organize the content you are, or the ideas around well-being that you are going to present. You can introduce the PERMA model, the one that I showed you, or you can use empathics, which is another one. You will find it in that link that Andrea shared with you in the sticky objects. It's another model. It just has so many principles, it was difficult to go through all of them in one presentation. You cannot talk about this without working on yourself. This is what happened to me, right? I started working on holistic teaching, and I actually changed the way I approach my work. And for the last 6 months, I've been doing this, and I think I'm in a better place than I've been in years. Use experiential teacher training, do activities with your teachers so that they can see how their learners would feel, and model whatever behavior you want the teachers to have in the class. Model that behavior for the teachers. Show them, if you want them to develop an interest in the learner's life, show interest in the teacher's life. Ask them about their interests, about their feelings, about, I don't know, their personal experiences. Be curious, genuinely curious about the people you work with. And of course, we are here in a community of teacher educators. Please stay in touch with each other. You will see the materials that you will receive after the webinar, and that are also on the British Council Teaching English Teacher Educators Community platform. You will see that you have extra resources. Dig deeper, go farther, develop some personal strategies, and do share them with other teachers, because you might inspire somebody else. So you do have a crucial role. And just to sum up, if you think about it, it's this connection that we create together with our learners, with our the teachers we work with the colleagues. Um, Keep learning, be curious, find out more about yourself and about the others, and then contribute, give back to the community, to the social community you live in, or to the community of teacher educators. And before I move on to the questions that you have, I would like to thank you for the inspiration that you shared in the Q&A. It was absolutely wonderful to read your ideas, and you are so creative. I was blown away by the answers and the connections you created. You made me sound more, smarter than I had thought. When I asked that question, I was like, oh, it's going to be like that, but you gave 1,000 more options. So thank you very much. And now I'm going to stop sharing, and Shireen will help me find the most relevant questions that I can answer.
Thank you so much, Christiana. Well, so many things to reflect on. So you also reminded me so many memories, because we've been working together in different projects with you, and I have to tell you that Christiana has been lead mentor or lead of some of those projects that I've been part of as a teacher educator. And what I remembered from all these that you shared, um, so you also mentioned creating a safe environment for the teachers you work with. For example, Christiana, as the lead in some of these projects, you would often say, no, Shireen, this increases your workload. Don't do it. And I remember many times when you reminded your team to prioritize our well-being by setting boundaries, and also it can be making some simple adjustments in the way that we deliver a course or the curriculum to create a supportive environment. So you were doing this deliberately. So, and yes, I think it's so important as teacher educators. Thank you so much once again for all your tips. So there were some questions. Colleagues, please keep writing your questions in the chat.
Please do.
Some of these you have already covered, but I would still like to ask these. For example, Babaya was asking, can teachers' well-being be seen in isolation of the teaching context environment? And depending on the answer, you already mentioned this, but can you tell us about the connection?
Yes, I think it cannot be isolated. It's something that we have to work on as individuals, but it must be supported by the school management, by all the institutions providing support for the teachers. I know that in many contexts, teachers are not happy with the way they are supported with the public policies, and they tend to complain. There is a general feeling of dissatisfaction in the teachers' lounge. So that's why I'm saying, even if you try to be very, very positive, it might be more difficult if you are surrounded by people who are always unhappy about the work conditions or the payment or something like that. So you can be the initiator, as I said. You could be the one who would shift that mentality, who would change or give another direction in a discussion. But you can also just be in a appropriate environment. And speaking of teachers lounge, I think the teacher educators and the inspectors, the supervisors, all the people working with teachers have such a huge role in creating a comfortable teacher's lounge. And it would be so nice to have just a few sofas, a coffee machine, a tea machine, something simple things. They do not cost a lot. It's again just showing the teachers we work with that we care and that it's important to have a few minutes in between classes when we can gather our thoughts, when we can read or listen to music or have a quiet corner where they can sit just to recharge their batteries very quickly before we head back to class. So yes, we can work on ourselves, but we need some support from the outside. And it would be great if at least even if we don't have the support of the larger system, if we have the support of our colleagues, of our school management can do so much with no or little money. It's really a matter of just trying and starting doing things for the teachers. And because
Yeah.
teachers don't expect much. Teachers, I have an activity in one of the courses in which I ask teachers to imagine the perfect school for teachers, and they always say things that would benefit the learners. We never think about ourselves. We always focus on the learners. So again, oxygen mask on us first, and then on the learners, we can help them, we can give them a good feeling.
Thank you, Christiana. And speaking about these school leaders, Entisar is also asking, how can I handle the educational policies? So yeah, we can also we may have an impact, or maybe not on our own, but as a community, if we set up a community or if we join a community. Or
I agree.
is there anything else you would like to?
Yeah, I think that it can be more or less difficult depending on our context. Um, I had a project in which I worked with teachers from around Europe, and everybody was kind of surprised by the perspective the teachers from the Baltic countries had. They had so much ownership, and I remember a teaching saying, "There is no school policy imposed on us from the ministry. I mean, there is, but if we don't like it, we change it because the school is the teachers and the learners." Not the government. The school is the teachers and the learners. It has such an impact, what he said, on me. And then I started thinking, it's true. I mean, if we are not happy, it would be ideally, we would be organized, we would have associations or unions or whatever, and we would make our voices heard and we would change things. I am aware of the fact that in some contexts this doesn't work. But again, it's a culture. If we teach this to our learners, if we show the learners, you can tell me what is not going well, and we can work together on changing this. These learners will probably, make choices in their lives. They will develop a culture in which they will hopefully vote for people that pay attention to those aspects, to listening to others, to not ruling others, but working with them. I think that is really, really important. So changing the way we work with our learners, moving maybe from managing their behavior to helping understand their behavior and looking what is behind the behavior might be very educational and might impact the learners further in their choices in life. So the change will take longer, but it will be there. But I do understand what you are saying at the start. It would be good if the change started from somewhere above some authorities. We can also start the change at our level.
Yeah, together with the learners. That's a very nice approach, actually. That's empowering and also having learners with us together in this journey. So, seeing learners as our community. I mean, teachers shouldn't see these things isolated from each other, and it affects our well-being. So it's about our actually professional development, right? This teacher
Absolutely.
development that has an impact on their well-being. So
And
when
it
it
shows how whatever we do in the class will have an impact on the communities we work in. Our learners will learn new behaviors, new values. They will take them, sorry, into their houses, into their homes. They will talk to other people. I heard somebody say something that I thought was so true, and I had never thought about it. They were saying that it's human nature to consider normal what we see around us. If
Mhm.
we continue perpetuating the same behavior, we will think, oh, okay, it's normal. But if we change the behavior slowly by education, by educating the learners through education, through working with the parents, with the community, we will have a huge impact. You know what they say, that teachers are the true influencers of the world. So we are changing, we are shaping the people who lead this world. We are shaping the people who work in all fields of life, in all professions. So our impact is huge. It shouldn't be overwhelming. It should be considered something that motivates us.
Yes, actually, seeing this as this challenge as something to explore more and learn from, and then reflect on together with the learners. So then it takes us from the middle of all these challenges. Then we look at things from
A
a
different perspective.
okay. Well, that this is so eye-opening for me. Thank you so much, Christiana. I'm sure for our participants as well. And you also mentioned rumination.
Yes,
Am I pronouncing it correctly?
yes,
So it creates challenges, right? Because it keeps teachers mentally stuck on negative thoughts
exactly.
or past events, and it can drain our energy. And you also mentioned that we sometimes have these negative, we can be very critical in a negative way.
Yeah.
And yeah, what would you say? I mean, you mentioned cultivating a positive self-talk, which is a very nice approach, I think. I will definitely try this.
Yes, it may be surprising. We don't pay attention to these things, and they have a huge impact on us. Um, just the way we speak to ourselves kind of shapes our inner world, right? We have a different attitude when we start being more positive. And while you think that this is working on yourself, it will be seen from the outside. It will be seen by the learners when they see a more positive, a more confident teacher in front of them, or a more positive teacher educator for the teachers. This will impact them, and they will maybe start wonder what happened, what is going on. And we can share, as I said, these all these strategies may seem simple, but they do have an academic aspect.
Mm.
As I was saying, just identifying what we feel, working on feelings, working on vocabulary related to feelings, working on how we can explain our feelings to somebody else is very important. And it does stop the rumination if we manage to put some distance between these negative thoughts, or just going back to something that happened. Maybe sometimes something triggers you and you go back to something that happened weeks ago and you start, oh my God, what did I do there? Why did I do that activity and not another one? Why did I talk to that learner in that way? If we create this positive attitude towards ourselves, we give ourselves some grace, we forgive ourselves, we move on, and we try to do better next time instead of always looking back. We start looking for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we are nearly. I mean, it's we can go to get go on forever, but yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been really eye-opening. I'm sure we have picked up so many practical ideas and different perspectives. It's so specific now in my mind. When somebody says well-being, it was just too vague. Now I have a very clear
Mm,
idea and picture. Thank you so much for this. And
thank you.
yes, we
And
hope.
I do hope we will all take something, whatever, one idea, one strategy, and we will implement it for at least 4 weeks, let's say. Shall we set it as a goal for all of us? One thing that you can easily change in your life in order to make you feel better, because you deserve it. You do such a wonderful job working with people, inspiring others. Let's inspire ourselves for a change a bit. And
Yeah.
thank you so much, Irina and Andrea, for being there. And thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And yes, that was the comment. Cristiana is an amazing teacher, tireless researcher, and extremely effective instructor. So we have learned about your tips and your superpowers. So thank you so much once again, Cristiana.
Thank
So
you so much. I appreciate it.
and yes, I will make some final reminders, everyone. So we hope again you found our session useful and picked up useful ideas. And we have a goal now for 4 weeks. And please remember to download the supporting documents, publications that we shared in the chat, and also on our website for this webinar. And the recording of the webinar will be available on our Teaching English website in the next couple of days. And the link to the certificate will be provided in the thank you email that you'll receive again in the next couple of days. Please share your feedback with us. And finally, don't forget to subscribe to our monthly newsletter and register for our next webinar on 10th of December, English as a School Subject, Learning Effective Practices from Primary Sector English Language Teachers in the Global South. So another exciting webinar. So we very much hope to see you again in our future webinars. Thank you, Cristiana.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.